Hello again, this is Jonathan Eder and the Piano Lesson, and today I want to talk about how to make your plain, ordinary, everyday, garden variety, vanilla chords sound like jazz. Ooh. So typically, it's a bit counterintuitive in that if I'm going to play a C chord, I'm not going to use a C. If I'm going to play an F chord, I'm not going to use an F. Well, why not? Well, they're called rootless voicings. Now we do play a root. You can play a root. You should play a root, but these voicings are a bit more dissonant. So let's just kind of jump right in here. If we're gonna play a C7 chord, okay, typical blues pattern: C7, F7, G7. All right. Bass clef. The C. C, E, G, B flat. That's a root position chord, right? I'm not going to play that. I'm going to play. I'm going to build it on the third of the chord, which is E, or the seventh of the chord, which is B flat. One of those two, the third or the seventh. So if I'm building the chord on the third, I'm going to get rid of that C, and I'm going to build it on. I'll just get rid of these chords for the moment. E. Here's our B flat that we had before, okay? And then I'm going to add two notes that you typically wouldn't think of it being in the chord. I'm going to add a D, and I'm going to add a right there. And that's what it sounds like. So this is the third, this is the 13, this is the 7th, and this is the 9th. And the chord is effectively C13. So C13 is the same as C7 with an added 9th and a 13th. Two ways to write the same chord. That's the rootless voicing. And it sounds like this. Right? Now, if you have to use your ear, so it partly you might not want, that might not be the best way to do it. So what you can do is take these two low notes, bring them up here, right? Bring them up an octave. So now you got B flat, D, E, and then A. B flat, D, E, A, right? Same thing, but now we're building it on the 7th of the chord rather than the 3rd of the chord, okay? Same chord, right? Instead of that basic chord. So how do you know which one to use? Well, you have to use your ear, and it also depends on those. So there's only two reasons to make musical decisions. There's practical reasons, okay? And there's musical reasons. So practical versus musical. Okay, so sometimes we do things because we want a certain sound. It might not be the easiest thing in the world to do, or sometimes it might not be the perfect sound, but we do it because there's no other way to do it when we're playing. You want to think about the register, R-E-G-I-S-T-E-R, the register that you're playing in. So where on the piano are you playing? Certain chords will sound better than others, depending on where you're playing. This is a lower register in the tenor range. This is a higher register there. And with the root, it sounds like this, or this. Notice what I'm doing on the top. Triad, C, E, G, E, G, C, right? So on top, in the right hand, right, all you do is maybe play E, G, C, okay, in your right hand, up here. That's all the same type of voicings that we have. Oh, yeah. Right. Or this, right down here, right? Right. Same idea. Okay, now the next trick is to be able to take any dominant chord, for instance, and be able to play it in one of these two ways to build the chord, these rootless voicings, on the third or the seventh, either way. Okay, so the other chord, the F. Here's your basic F. F-A-C, E flat, okay? F-A-C, E flat, right? That's your basic F7, okay? I'm probably not going to play that, right? So I'm going to build it on, let's say, the seventh of the chord. E flat, I'm going to take this A, that's the A, F-A-C, E flat, root third, fifth, and the seventh, and I'm going to take that A and put it up here, and then I'm going to add two other notes. I'm going to add the G, which is the ninth, and the D, the D, which is the 13. G and E flat. So that's 7, 9, third, and 13. All right, that's F. Now that's F13. And if I don't like that voicing, I'll take the two lower notes. Okay, I take these notes down here, right, and I'll bring them up here. Right, and now I have A, D, E flat, and G. G, E flat, D, and A. Okay, so that's the other voicing. Right? And then let's look at the G. All right, let's take a look at a G. So here's your basic G, G, B, D, F, G, B, D, F, root third, fifth, and seventh. You can call it flat 7 if you want, but right. I'm gonna build it on the seventh of the chord. So F, there's the seventh, all right? And still gonna keep the B, want that B, that's the third. Seventh and third are the most important notes in the chord because that's what tells you what chord you're playing basically, major or minor. So here's your B, and then an A below that, and then an E. So we have F, A, B, natural, E, seventh, 9, third, 13. Right? That's G 13 now. Or with the root. Or if you don't like that, again, what you do is you build it on the third. You can take the bottom two notes, F and A, bring them up here. B, D, yeah, what do we got? B, right, E, F, and A. B, E, F, and A. So there's your rootless voicing. Okay. So again, C7 is going to look either like that or that. F7 is going to look either like that or that. G7 is going to look either like that or that. You notice if I take this voicing and I play it down here, it's too muddy. It's not going to sound very good. That's not going to either sound that great either. That sounds okay. That sounds fine. Of course, as you get up into here, it might interfere with your melodies, and you're going to have to play your melodies up an octave. Likewise with G, well, the root position sounds okay, but if you start playing rootless chords down here, that's just too mushy. That's barely acceptable in that range. Maybe it might work under certain situations, but it's pretty pretty extreme. So I would say you can hear how that's acceptable. That's acceptable. That's really getting to the extreme, the D13, and that's not acceptable at all. So I would say, you know, maybe E flat is about as low as you can go. It still works, you know, you can keep going higher. That's all right. And that's building the chord on the 7th. If you build the chord on the 3rd again, that sounds good, you know. That's not bad. That's still, you know, acceptable. That's getting kind of edgy right there. That's about as far as I'd ever go. That's almost hard to hear the pitches. That's way too low. Barely. I probably wouldn't go farther than that. But that's a nice, probably safe bet. That's your B flat 13. A13 is just kind of too low for me, right? So now, how do you choose these voices? Again, practical versus musical reasons. Practically speaking, we might choose to play something that we're not 100% happy with, but it's just the only way we can do it in the heat of battle. Or we could, you know, we choose to do something that might feel awkward, might even be kind of heroic in what we're trying to accomplish, but we want to do it because it's how we want it to sound. So it's a balancing act of, you know, practically speaking, what register you're playing, and musically speaking, each of these voicings has a different quality. So we're going to use what we call smooth, spelling this wrong, OOT, smooth voice leading, Leading, smooth voice leading. So a voice is a note, like a note in a choir, a voice like a voice in a choir. Okay, and that's the note that you're playing. And leading means we're kind of telling them what to do. And smooth meaning we're not skipping, we're not jumping all over the place. We're moving pretty much by step. Okay. So let's just say here's C7, E, A, B flat, and D. Right. That's a C7. That's a 13 voicing now. Right. And then if I want to go to the F7, well, I think the next, so I don't have to move very long. Here's the F7. Right? Now I'm building it on the 7th. Here I'm building it on the 3rd. All right, that's the 3rd of the chord, E. Here I'm going to build it on the 7th, E flat, G, A, and D. E flat, G, A, D. That's now your F13. And notice, by the way, there's a common tone. What's the common tone? D. All right, so D is not moving. Right? And there's another note that stays the same, the A. Right? So the A was the 13 in the C chord. Now it's the 3rd in the chord, and the D, which was the 13 over here, now that's gonna excuse me, that was the 9th in the C chord. That's gonna be the 13 now. So the function of the chord changes. The function of the note in the chord rather changes. The context changes. Right. So there are constants and variables. Constants and variables. That some things stay the same, some things change. And then the other chord, the last chord, the G13, okay? Well, maybe, probably that would make the most sense. So that's F, A, B, and then E. F, A, B, E. 7th, 9th, 3rd, 13. That's a typical rootless voicing. All right, so here's what it would sound like in a blues. G, F, C. Now, starting on the 7th of the chord, and building on the 3rd of the chord, the F, different voicing. Building on the 3rd. Triad on the top. Triad. Then here's your G. So the right hand is actually relatively easy. You're just playing triads, basic triads. Now again, I used voice leading in my right hand too. This is C, root position. F, second inversion. G, first inversion. Okay, so our right hand, if you're playing, maybe playing, I don't know, playing higher, you're playing right there, but probably playing up here. E, G, C, okay, and then F, F, A, C, right, and then maybe D, what was I going to do? D, G, B, right? D, G, B. Okay, so that's the C chord, right? That's the F, and that's the G. All right. So you should be able to do in any key, E flat, E, right? F, just basic triads, going up and down, right? If you can't do that, you're going to have a big problem playing. We're taking triads. Right? And even basic dominant sevenths, of course. That's just a basic dominant 7. First inversion, second inversion, third inversion, root position. But it's these rootless voicings that really give your playing, make it edgy. That sound. Now you can modify those. You could make it a little less sparkly by getting rid of the 13. So this is B flat, D, E, A. You could get rid of the 13 and just play a G and just add the 9th. That's possible. You know, so it's a bit, you're making it a little bit more tame than what you had before. Or you could go the other extreme and rather than adding what we call extensions, so extensions are 9ths, 13ths, anything that go beyond the octave, you're extending, you're making it longer, right? Those added notes in the chord, the 9th, the 13th, right? Those are called extensions, right? You can also do what we call ALTER alterations, and all alterations is not something you do to a vest in a pair of pants. It's like sharp 9 or flat 5 or anything that's kind of chromatic, versus diatonic. T-O-N, sorry guys, I'm writing fast, T-O-N-I-C. So something that's chromatic is, let's just say, not in the key. Something that's diatonic is in the key. Okay. So what does that sound like? Well, here's our 13 chord again. Here I'm taking the D and I'm making it D flat. Much different sound, right? Or I can take the A, which is the 13, and I can bring that down a half step. Right? That's an augmented sound. You could call it a flat 13. Usually we refer to that as a sharp 5, an augmented sound. Semantics in some sense, but or both. Or if you're playing a chord, if you're repeating a chord over and over and over and over and over again, it's nice to change it slightly so just you don't get tired of hearing it the same way, right? So this is C13 with the added ninth, flat 9. Okay, or you could even add something else. You could add the F sharp. Here's the F13 we did earlier, based on the third, A, D, E flat, G. There's your flat 9, or your sharp 5, or your flat 9 also, or possibly that's a sharp 9. Now we're getting a little bit far afield. I'll tell you a little secret about these 13 voicings. There's a trick. So there's a chord. There's a really cool sounding chord. It's the sharp 9, sharp 5 sound. So let's just say C7, sharp 9, sharp 5. You could take the knowledge that you have with these rootless chords and you could combine them. So here's the root, C, okay? And on top of that, I'm gonna put a rootless 7 chord, right? A tritone above the root. So tritone above C is F sharp or G flat, but it's halfway in the octave, right? I'm going to take that, let's say F sharp 13, right? And I'm going to change the root down a tritone. E, G sharp, B flat, D sharp, we're going to call it D sharp instead of E flat, third, sharp 5, flat, that's your 7, and then your sharp 9. That's C7, sharp 9, sharp 5. And you might hear that sharp 9, flat 9, and then you're back to the chord again. Da, 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 da. So that's another level of taking the same chord and just repurposing it. Okay, so a lot of the stuff that we learn, we can repurpose. I know this might be a lot of information that I'm throwing at you, but I just kind of want to plant seeds. Now, some of you guys might know all this stuff. You might be like totally bored and like, I know all that stuff and don't, but I don't know. It does bear repeating, and it is the kind of thing that you really want to be able to just throw your hand down on the piano. You don't have to think about it. If you see a C, but there's you have to read between the lines. Typically we use lead sheets, a lead sheet, right? L-E-A-D, a lead sheet. So the lead line, that's the melody, right? And the lead sheets are what we see in fake books. Fake books. Nothing's real. Fake books. Fake music. No, you have a melody line and the chord symbols. So that's a lead sheet. And you have to be able to step up and interpret them, right? It's about interpretation. So if you see a chord symbol, sometimes you can take it literally. Sometimes in a lead sheet, the chords will be really spelled out meticulously, and you'll see every single extension and alteration. And typically when that happens, that's going to be when you're playing piano in a big band. So and it's extremely important because you don't want to step on anyone's toes when you're playing along with other people, because it's going to sound bad. If the saxophone section's playing with you, or trumpet section, and they're playing certain notes, and they're playing a ninth and you're playing a sharp nine, that's not going to work real well. So you got to really be on top of things and pay attention to what you're doing if you're playing in a band, and usually that music is much more explicit, but typically that's not the case. And conversely, there are fake books of lead sheets that we encounter, which are filled with mistakes. They're just mistakes, okay? And it's not really disparaging to them. There's just, there's a lot of music out there, and there's also the whole fun of playing jazz is that there's more than one right way of doing something, right? So a lot of it is left up to you, okay? So if you're, and here's an example. I talked about using these rootless voicings in the left hand, okay? What about using them in the right hand? Okay, well, you can use them in the right hand. For instance, you can do this in Satin Doll. So the Satin Doll is D minor 7, G7. That's 2-5, root position, E minor 7. You can do this. Here's a rootless voicing, building on the 7th of the chord, 7th, 9th, 3rd, 5th. There's your 3rd. There's the 3rd of the chord, 13, 7, 9. That's minor 7, 13. Here's the 13. That's a major 7. Now, you can apply the same thing to chords other than dominant chords. If they're a major 7 chord, the chord I just ended on, that's C major 7 as opposed to C dominant 7. It's still a rootless chord, 7, 9, 3rd, 5th. Okay, so it doesn't have the 13, but it's the same principle. You're building the chord on the 7th or the 3rd of the chord. So that's major 7, major 13. That's dominant. Is minor. Still building it on the 7th or the 3rd. Here you're building it on the 3rd of the chord. Those are the sounds. Right. That's the meat and potatoes of playing jazz. All right. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. Okay, I gotta run. Good to see you guys. I didn't actually see you, but metaphorically speaking, I've seen you. You've seen me. You've literally seen me. Please write me. Let me know if you have questions. This is Jonathan Eder in the Piano Lessons, and so long. Oh.